Hi, I'm Laura Lee with Eagle Eye Astrology here today to talk to you more in depth about Zendaya. We'll start by looking at Zendaya's outer cycles of Saturn and Jupiter, and then we'll look at more specifics of the chart just through the timeline of her biography. All right, so at the age of 14, she moved to Los Angeles with her father. Her mother was a teacher. There's a really good interview with her and her mother where she talks about how she was trying out sports as a young child, and then that she wasn't really that interested in sports, but once Zendaya discovered theater. Her mother was volunteering, and she was able to participate in youth theater, which she had a real liking for. And then again, the family decides to move to Los Angeles. Within 6 months of moving, she lands casting on Shake It Up. And so this is the chart for Shake It Up. So I just think it's interesting that we see this opening the door to what comes throughout her career and this rapid unfoldment of progress as an actress. Then fast forward to 2019, which would be 9 years later. Quite a lot of acting had taken place by this time, but she really opens a new door with Euphoria, premiering on HBO. This is the series that will eventually land her in 2020 the award of the Emmy, and then she earns 2 Emmys. At this time, when the show premieres, transiting Chiron was conjunct her Saturn. This series is very intense. It's about addiction, and it's this really adult dramatic role that Zendaya is performing. It's also interesting here that she's having a Mars return at this time, because I noticed also in interviews that she commented a lot about coming home with bruises and being all banged up, and that it was quite a physical task what she was filming in there. Okay, so she takes the second Emmy on September 13th, 2022. She was the youngest person to ever receive that Primetime Emmy. And then you see Jupiter rewarding Saturn here at this point right here, contacting exactly on that 5-degree Aries point of her Saturn. I thought that was quite striking. Of course, there are other things we could say about this chart, like Venus conjunct the Sun and lunar return, and among other things, but I have some other things to share with you going forward. I think one of the coolest things that I just want to point out here is Pallas Athena contacting her Neptune at the time that the filming began in February. You see Saturn and Neptune transiting, approaching her natal Saturn, and Mars returning to itself, again, maybe having that same physical intensity level that she was experiencing with Euphoria when that was filming. When the filming of the Odyssey wrapped up in August of 2025, you see Pallas Athena crossing the ascendant, and it's sort of like, okay, now the process is done and it's been fully brought to form, right? You see Saturn and Neptune giving us a preview in Aries, but then they retreat backwards for a time until this year when they entered in Aries completely in about February of this year. By the time Zendaya reaches her Saturn return on April 2nd of 2026, this occurred 1 week after she gave this interview where she made some comments about needing to step back after this year, needing to go into hiding, I think was the actual words that she used, which I thought was interesting because she had so many film projects in the queue this past year that of course it must have been very intense. Well, you can really see that intensity with the weighted transiting planets in this area of her chart, really packing it in. And there's that Athena point. We also have Pluto on the ascendant, Uranus on the IC, a lot going on. So I bring out this example chart because I like for people to see and understand the cycles of Saturn and Jupiter and how they play out in people's lives. And it's not for celebrity worship or anything like that. It's more because their lives are already so public that we can really, we can all speak the same language and just look at the facts of the situation without needing to interpret too deeply into somebody's psychology. I think the important message here for astrologers to bring out is that Saturn and Jupiter have these predictable cycles, and they show up in predictable ways in human biographies. And the more that people know about this, the more that astrology can be demystified. And I think that's really important because it's time that people step into becoming cosmic citizens. I think this also shows Zendaya as being an important generational leader for the Pluto and Sag generation, the Gen Zs, if you will. I think it's also interesting her name starts with a Z. But these are the truth seekers, the wisdom warriors. And here we have Athena herself sort of embodied in this picture of Zendaya. Really interesting. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much.